Get us on YouTube. And okay. We
Okay,
are
thanks,
live.
Barbara. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining our Wednesday, May 5th Board of Health meeting. It's now 4:01, and I'm just going to read our virtual meeting requirement. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of Southborough Board of Health will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the Town of Southborough website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner: by finding the meeting at Southborough website, remote meeting or virtual meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio and or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive records of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So we have not too long of an agenda today. I don't think it'll take too long. We have our first thing on our agenda is approval of minutes. So the last couple of meetings were kind of quick ones, so we didn't approve. So we kind of have 3 meeting minutes to approve. So I'm just going to go one by one. Nancy, I think you were, let me make sure we were present at all of them. Yes, you were, because I know Dan's not here. So let's start with I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes on March 30th.
I second the motion. And I vote to approve the meeting minutes from March 2nd. Or what, was that the right?
30th. March 30th. And this is Mary Lou, and I approve the minutes for March 30th. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from April 9th at 9 a.m. meeting.
I second the motion and I vote to approve those meeting minutes from April.
And this is Mary Lou, and I approve the minutes of April 9th. And the last one, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from April 20th Board of Health meeting.
I second the motion and I vote to approve the meeting minutes from April 20th.
And Mary Lou, I vote yes to approve the minutes from April 20th meeting. So thank you. Hi, Dennis. Oh, he's on mute.
You're muted.
Hello. So the first thing on our agenda is sort of a continuation of our past discussion and kind of our ongoing discussion about the noise complaints that are coming from Ken's Foods. And Heather, I'm wondering if you could maybe just give a little bit of an overview of the issues that have been going on and what sort of happened to date. I know we have a resident that would like to speak to that issue, but maybe you can give us an overview of what's been going on there.
Okay. So one thing to update on is, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I went to a ZBA to a committee meeting and with the zoning board, and Ken's, who's in the building property on Route 9, expanded their operations between 2015 and 2019, which resulted in additional complaints of noise starting in about 2019. And those noises have not really been mitigated. Deb will review. They've done a sound wall on the east side But then the shift in operations around 2019 to the west side, those sounds have not been mitigated. So that's sort of the background there. And then the current proposal, why they were at, the building owner was at this ZBA meeting proposing another expansion. I believe the expansion proposed is on the back or onto the east side. However, there were a number of concerned citizens at that meeting. However, there's only been sort of 2 formal complaints through a complaint form through the building department about the noise from this building. But there was a number of citizens who did complain at that meeting 2 weeks ago. And I think the feeling there for coming from that meeting is they were going to take it up again, but that, hey, why are we even really talking about expansion if we haven't kind of mitigated and investigated the current noise complaints? So that was the meeting. And then sort of on a separate note, but related certainly, we have no town ordinance for noise here in Southborough, and that's being presented at town meeting in the warrant by a concerned citizen. It might be Peter Lapine, but that's being presented at town meeting.
Is that warrant article have anything to do with Ken's or?
Not exactly, no, but it does sort of, I actually have not seen it, so I need to look at it, but it doesn't specifically address Ken's, but it does concern, a noise ordinance for our town. I think it may involve sort of like lawn tools, but I actually haven't seen it. I've heard that at points it gets rather specific, that maybe, but it is a noise, but I don't believe it addresses Ken's directly.
Okay.
But I think potentially, a noise ordinance would have potentially a place for our town, but I don't know the specifics.
Okay.
It's a generic noise ordinance. That's from Timothy Litt.
Okay. And so that would encompass the whole town, but the issues with Ken's could be impacted by if that.
Yeah,
passed.
if there's a noise ordinance, I
Right.
think that's, that's definitely a stepping point, right, with the specifics, right.
Okay. And do you have we had ongoing complaints? To my knowledge, it's only been since the past year.
Yeah, I
comes to the
understand
Board
it's
of
about
Health.
2019. There was initially complaints, I think, back in 2015 when that wall was built. But the current complaints, I believe, started very late 2019. Mhm.
Okay. So next steps, we briefly discussed at our last meeting that we were going to try to start to gather more information on this. And as the resident that wants to speak to us today has some more information that the resident has been working on. Is that my correct understanding?
Yes. I spoke with Kim Paulus, I spoke with DEP. So, I'm gathering some
Okay.
information.
Is this a good time to bring in, is Deb Demuria?
Yeah.
Deb Demuria?
You ready?
Is Deb on our meeting, Barbara?
She's
Right
joining.
here.
Yeah.
To unmute.
Oh, okay, yeah, she's muted right now.
There she is. Okay.
Hi, Deb. Welcome
there.
to our meeting. Thanks for joining us today. I know Heather has relayed information that you have a few slides you'd like to present to us about really educating us more about what's been going on. And I know you're a close proximity neighbor, so have been more involved. And so we're anxious to hear more about your thoughts and information that you've gathered. And we have about 10 minutes or so. And I know Heather mentioned that you have slides. Would you share the slides or you send them to us, or how would you like to do that?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, either way, I've sent them to Heather, but I think I can bring them up right now, if that's okay with you.
Sure,
If I do a share screen,
sure.
well, let me
Should
see.
be able to, hon.
I'm able to, okay. So I'm doing that now and I'm looking to share them.
Yep.
And you
It's
can let me
working.
know if they've come up.
I know Heather mentioned that you have slides. Would you share the slides or you send them to us, or how would
Oh,
you
we-
like to do that?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, either way, I've sent them to Heather, but I think I can bring them up right now, if that's okay with you.
Sure,
If I do a share screen.
sure.
Well, let me
Should
see
be able to, hon.
what's going on.
What's going on, Barbara?
I'm doing that now. It sounds like a repeat.
Yeah, it's all YouTube, so we're gonna not be live on YouTube. Oops.
Okay. Send them to us, or how would you?
Oh, geez. All right, I'll get in there. Go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah, either way.
We can't, it's, I'm hearing all the background.
Yep. It's a pain in the neck.
Okay, so we good now?
You should be.
Okay, all right, sorry, Deb.
Okay, no, thank you very much. So, yeah, my slides are pretty dense. I don't intend to read through all of them. And frankly, the ones at the end are really more reference. Let's say I won't go into those. Well, I just want to mention my name is Debbie Demuria for the record, and I'm a member of the zoning board in Southborough. And obviously today I'm here speaking as a private citizen. I'm a registered pharmacist in the state of Massachusetts. I work in the pharmaceutical industry and I work in regulatory affairs. And so today I just want to give you some information, and I'll be happy to go into as much information or answer any questions. I was asked to give sort of a history of the property. And so this first slide is a chronology of the property at 325 Turnpike Road. I've lived in town with my husband, my kids for 25 years. So when we moved into town, it was a building that was the 9X property. And then it was used by Verizon for a number of years. And in 2012, Ken's purchased the building, and it was a 350,000 square foot building. In 2014, Ken's applied for a special permit, and they anticipated future changes at that time. And so the board considered the types of, sorry, the board considered the types of changes that Ken's anticipated, and they put in a noise mitigation section, a very, very lengthy one, and that's in the October 2014 zoning board decision. And as Heather mentioned, there were complaints by the neighbors at that time for truck rumbling and truck idling, and a sound barrier wall was constructed. I don't know the exact date, but somewhere around 2015, and that was part of the zoning decision. And then since that time, Ken's has come back to the zoning board and the planning board and have had expanded their facility, and to even coming back most recently in April. And then the major thing that impacts the neighbors on my end of the neighborhood is that the operations were moved from the east side where the sound barrier wall is to the west side where there is no sound barrier wall. The other thing I wanted to point out is that if one of the modifications to planning board was for trucks, Ken's to be able to have long-term storage of their trucks, which I wanted to revisit with you. And so this is just an aerial view of the Ken's. It's still listed as Barrett Distribution Center. That was who Ken's was using. It goes under that name. If you were to look up 325 Turnpike, this is from our GIS system, but even if you do like a Google search, you'll see Barrett Distribution, even though it's Ken's now. And you notice how obviously close to the residents the facility is. That's Route 9 along the bottom. And also it's that's Neary School off to the right, and Trotter School. Neary is about the same distance away on the east side, about within 2,000 square feet or linear feet from as I am on the other side. I'm about 1,800 linear feet the west and Neary's on the east. So just, in terms of what's going on with, our present concern is, as Heather mentioned, in 2019 is when the summer, late summer, September, my husband and I started to hear like a rumbling noise at our house. And that lines up with when Ken's got the permit from the planning board and finished the construction to move the operations from the east side of their facility over to the west side. And so now we have, so some parking lot was cleared so that trucks could come in and out of the area more, let's say, more smoothly. They didn't have to do like the 3-point turn back up, but they're also being parked over there and the bays are open on that side. And there's obviously no protection or no sound wall over there. So this is sort of a history that, my husband and I had spoken to a couple of neighbors. They heard it around the same time, didn't quite know what to do. One of our neighbors called the police. So there's a couple police reports, and they're always willing to help. And Chief Polhouse has been very, very nice with us in providing any information to us. And then, we decided to go to speak to the building commissioner about what was happening down at Ken's, what we were hearing. And that, eventually led to Ken's being aware of the noise, and also, working with a neighbor at 24 Flag who, agreed to do, they agreed to do a sound study. And these are not, inexpensive. It's a pretty expensive sound study from what we understand. So the sound study was set up in May. And since that time, we've been engaging with Mass DEP and speaking to them about the findings of the report. And now we know Ken's is, a week and a half or so ago, they're back to the ZBA for further expansion. And just go to the next slide. Just a little bit about the test. The testing occurred in May 2020, so just about this time last year. It was during Governor Baker's shutdown, so there were no cars on the road, maybe one a minute or something like that. It was very, very, obviously quiet during that time. The equipment was placed at my home, which is 58 Flag Road, and also at my neighbor, his house at 24 Flag. And there were some other sites that may have been considered, as I saw some emails, but the two sites were 24 and 58 Flag. In sharing this report with Mass DEP, who gave us sort of an off-the-record opinion, I don't have anything written, but they said it was confusing. It was confusing for a number of reasons. So it didn't follow the standard Mass DEP guidelines. Ambient wasn't measured. The meters at sound equipment was placed really close to the trucks that should have been put at the edge of the property. And then in the analysis, there's an assumption that the noise is coming from these refrigerator trucks, which they are also called reefer trucks. So this is my neighbors kind of trying to make an understanding of the report that we were given. So we were only given one low frequency. So truck rumbling, truck idling is associated with a low frequency. We were given 63. There could be much more data from this report, but this is, the report that was given to us. And you can see that there's a very close correlation. So the blue line at the top is Ken's. The gray line in the middle is my house at 58. And then at 24 is the red orange below. And you can just see these are typically overnight. This is typically all night and high levels. At my house, I hit 70, 75 Decibels, which Mass DEP says is anywhere, kind of in between, like 70 would be a vacuum cleaner at 3 meters and 80 is a garbage disposal at 1 meter. So this is a rumbling, and I want to describe that this is a chronic rumbling. It's like sitting on a maybe like a washing machine. If I put my feet on the floor, my floor is shaking. And in fact, I think I've sent to Heather, we have videos of, windows rattling and that sort of thing. And it's chronic. It's mainly in the evenings, by the way. It's all weekend. It's Saturday and Sunday. And at our house, it's hardly during the afternoon, although we did hear something different from the neighbors at the ZBA hearing a couple weeks ago. So according to the police records, the cause of the noise is both truck idling and compressors. And under Mass General Law, truck idling is not allowed. And so without a noise ordinance, that, we have a little bit of a difficulty with anybody telling, a car, a truck, rumbling, that they shouldn't be doing that. But it's not lawful. And also the ZBA permit from 2014, which is still employed today, it's never been updated through the years, tried to put in noise mitigation into that decision. And so, one of the questions that I have is, why are these trucks running? So Ken's did modify their application for planning board, I think in late 2018 or 19, and they said that they would be using it for long-term storage of trucks. However, I'm just showing you a picture that I got off of the internet, and these are the trucks. These are trucks that are parked there, but the compressors are running. They're just running. And so in addition to trucks that are sitting there, this picture was actually taken from somebody in a truck, and there's all kinds of photos online of people that are waiting long hours or whatever. The trucks are there, they're idling, but these are the trucks. They're parked there long term, and they have for some reason they're running. So I just wanted to point out in this photo that this is a picture of the Ken's property, which is down toward the bottom of the screen, kind of highlighted in blue. Oops, I lost you for a second. That red line shows where the zoning changes. So this property is in the industrial zone as well as Residence A, and the septic is in the Residence A portion of the property. And so my next slides are really all about the regulations, the DEP regulation that the zoning board tried to put into place, which of course only deals with the east side noise. It never anticipated the west side. And then I won't go through them, but there's some case law that zoning boards of health have used, to stop noise. Under Mass General Law, there's several sections that the boards of health can use to stop noise, section 143 and also 123, that, if a property is making noise that the board deems unreasonable, that they can be fined. And I just wanted to mention, and I think I might have given this to Heather, but this is a large kind of body of information that the Mass DEP puts out to municipalities. Chief Pullhouse has been really helpful to us in giving us some of this information. And they will work with boards of health to help understand the noise, or if they want to borrow the sound equipment or anything like that. That they're there as a resource, essentially, is all I wanted to say. And so that's all I really have. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
I guess my questions are more for Ken's, because I don't understand why they're not following, these ordinances and why those trucks need to be idling all the time. I don't really understand that.
Well, yeah, I don't, I don't work for Ken, so I don't really know, but, I did spend some time to find out, because, Attorney Pizzoni, who represents Ken's, has spoken to me when the sound equipment was being put up. We chatted in my yard. He also called me in March to let me know that the expansion request for the special permit was going to be going through. And I don't really understand it either, but I did take some time to look up Ken's products. And on their website, none of their products or their brands are refrigerated. And so, our feeling is that, Ken's is being used more as a distribution center. There are trucks that are maybe not within their control, and they don't appear to have control. We did hear from Jim Bourne, who's the manager at the zoning board meeting last week or the week before, and he said only about 20% of the trucks are Ken's. And so that means, in our opinion, a lot of, maybe Ken's trucks get priority, maybe they're going in the daytime, but, we don't believe they have control over their site. I mean, that's our opinion. That's my opinion.
So if they're not Ken's trucks, who are they? Did they lease out their space?
So this has become a distribution center. Originally it was purchased as a warehouse when I was giving the overview of how the building had changed hands a number of times, and Ken's purchased it as a warehouse, but it's now a distribution center. So trucks come in and they are not just Ken's trucks, but maybe they're going to Stop and Shop or maybe they're going across the country. I don't know, but they're picking up the product at Ken's and then they're moving on. There is a site online. If you look up Barrett Distribution, you'll see there's trucker sites, and they talk amongst themselves about how long they have to wait. And I can share this with the board, but there's plenty of examples where trucks have to wait 5 hours, 8 hours, 7 hours. And some have good things to say, and some say that they're waiting a long time. So, our question is, well, those trucks that are sitting there for 8 hours, they're supposed to be sent off site, actually. Some of them appear like they have. Ken says that they are sent off site, but I'm not sure if after hours they're sent off site, because that's where we're hearing the noise. We've actually followed up with the building inspector to see if they have a night watchman, which was, in the 2014, order. I believe they do. But whether that person is letting these trucks, make this noise, Ken's has shifted a little bit. Originally, they said, you don't know whether the noise is coming from our property, and maybe it's Route 9 or something else. But we know it's coming from their property because of the police reports, and also in the zoning board hearing a couple weeks ago, they said it's coming from the refrigerated trucks. That's what they believe. So we wonder, why do they have refrigerated trucks? If trucks are sitting there, they're not allowed to idle. I believe that what's going on is not legal.
So is it is an assumption kind of, it sounds to me, and reading between the lines, that maybe these trucks are refrigeration trucks, they're coming to pick up some supplies or some products from this location, and it takes so long, so the products they already have in their truck need refrigeration, and so they need to continue to run while they're sitting there waiting for their distribution of product.
Right. So there's a regulation about that, just as school buses can't idle on school grounds, right? Unless there's no other alternative. You can't have a cold bus for the children to get on a bus. So there's no alternative. The alternative would be, and I offered it to the zoning board, that they have some sort of a plug-in for the trucks. Maybe that's an idea, but the Ken's has to offer by law some noise mitigation, that these trucks cannot lawfully just make noise. They have to offer for them. If, let's say, they have a refrigeration, they have to keep it refrigerated. So maybe they can go off site and use a truck stop or something, but they have to offer some sort of noise mitigation, and a plug-in for their trucks is one of them. And they don't need to be at that property. That's a distribution center. They're going to pick up something, but they're not allowed to as far as I know from my reading of the zoning decisions and the planning decisions, they asked for long-term storage of trucks. But I think, none of us, me included, think that that means that the trucks are running. So we've never gotten a clear answer on that.
So in your very educated, thank you for the summary, it is really helpful.
Mhm.
In your educated opinion, what are the next steps that the concerned residents, and your thoughts on the Board of Health and DEP, and what are your thinking?
Well, we're in the middle of a public hearing on the zoning board. Obviously, I've recused myself. And so the public has an opportunity to, and any board or committee, Board of Health as well, have the opportunity to provide some feedback to the zoning board. My thinking is that there's the 2014 conditions, which I've studied very, very carefully, were written with the best intentions in mind to anticipate any future changes. But I don't think they could have anticipated that there would be expansion after expansion after expansion, and also reconfiguration. And now when I look at that in retrospect, the details of that are all about putting up a second wall on the east side if the neighbors are still not satisfied on the east side. They don't address the west side at all. I mean, in the spirit, you'd say, oh, okay, well, if this was applicable for the east side, then it's got to be applicable for the west side. I mean, so my husband and I were asking for them to build a wall, but there needs to be some monitoring, because they've not done, I think, a thorough job of policing themselves. And so, they've, I think, there's some things that they could do, as I said, to have a truck, maybe it's in the queue and it's going to go pick up a load. They should, have something to plug in. We were told that the long-term storage of trucks is some sort of a sound barrier. It's not a good one. Actually, one of the ZBA members said it's not cutting it. It's not made of the right material, and it's not high enough. So I think that Ken's has done some things that I think with some effort, but there's long-term damage that's getting done. And you can tell, by people that have dialed into some of these meetings, and I sent Heather a background minutes or something from 2014, 15, and there's more. It's really the same kind of complaint. I can't sleep. There's rumbling in the middle of the night. I'm chronically tired. Why is this allowed? And so, I mean, I think, for us on the west side, that's how we're thinking also. I think we're thinking more like, why is this allowed? We don't believe this is even part of their business. I would ask that they cease and desist. And also, I believe that they're not in compliance with the 2014 noise mitigation. So and I'd be happy to show you another time, but there's a section that says if Ken's fails to apply these mitigation techniques, they could lose their 24/7 permit. And it's not clear to me. In fact, it's to the opposite, to the contrary. It's clear that they don't have control of their process, and they're a little bit dissociated from it. Those aren't our trucks. Only 20% of those are our trucks. We can't provide plugins. And so I would say they don't need 24/7 operations, and we need a sound wall on the west side. And but we heard some other neighbors on the east side. I'm also very concerned about, that there's schools nearby. Now, the operations are happening on the west side. But with this new ZBA request for special permit, it does move some of the operations over to the east side. And what's on the east side, we've got Mary School and Trotter. So this, in my mind, appears to be outside of their normal business. This is something secondary, and it's not necessary. Ken's has said that most of their business happens during the day. I believe they said 60% happens during the day and the other 40. And the day they gave as, I don't know if it was maybe 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. or I've heard them say different things, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., something like that. We know at 5 o'clock something happens. We can hear, is it 4:48 or 5:02 or 5:03 or 4:49? Something happens, like the boss leaves and the trucks start rumbling, and it's like clockwork. And I would ask that we turn that off.
Okay. Heather or Dennis, you have any thoughts, comments, or anything to add?
Not right now.
Okay. Heather?
Well, I spoke with the engineer at DEP, and so one enforcement from DEP noise, which is 310.7.10, puts out in terms of ambient noise and noise that's 10 decibels above ambient noise, and this study did not measure, so we don't have that. And then MAHB also has guidance on noise, and their potential noise complaints that are referencing Chapter 111, Section 122, right? Yeah, the 7.10, 7.11. So I was perhaps gonna talk with someone from MAHB. But I do think that's also a good idea if potentially I was at the meeting for ZBA and expressed my concern, but maybe if we express again to ZBA our concern with future expansion before we've kind of mitigated the current noise situation.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, we know the health impacts of noise, and we can cite that. So I think the board, and I guess I'd like to make a motion to send a response to ZBA in relation to this from the board. Nancy, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's a good idea. I second the motion.
So I'll take a vote. This is Mary Lou. Take a vote to send a Board of Health response with some resource backups and recommendations from the board.
I vote to do as Mary Lou outlined.
And I know there are bylaws, and Mass Association of Health Boards is really helpful. They have a lawyer that we've worked with before in putting together some bylaws specifically around tobacco use and so forth. And if other towns have specific bylaws related to noise, they're very helpful in helping us with that. So that's an option. We can see what's going to happen at town meeting. That could be really helpful as well. So I guess I would like to say thank you, Deb, for coming, and this is very informative. I'm glad, it's out, it's recorded now, and so other people can learn more about the issues that have been going on. And we will respond to ZBA for sure. And this isn't over here. We're going to continue to follow up. If there needs to be another study, I think we could look at that, but it sounds like that's maybe not necessary at this point. Now it's more moving forward on some mitigation strategies and trying to figure out what we can do to improve the health of the residents that are being impacted by this.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is an update on the shared services grant, which we talked about at our last meeting. And yay, we did get the shared services grant. And Heather, thank you so much for all the work that you did to work on that. And maybe you can give everybody an update on what's going on with that.
Right, we did just get the announcement, and starting next week, we really start planning to implement it and have a couple meetings, I think, next week and the week after. But the shared services grant was state money set aside for enhancing local public health services. And 4 towns applied. Northborough is the lead applicant. Northborough, Southborough, Westborough, and Boylston. And over the next kind of May and June, we're gonna spend time kind of looking at how really to the mechanics of getting this done. And this is $300,000 per year money. And we had put together a proposal about this money is going to be spent on nursing services and inspectional services, as well as updating software for food and housing inspections. And I believe iPads that inspectors can bring on the inspections to in real time log those inspections with the new software.
Nice.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks and congratulations. Congratulations, Dennis. Oh, it's always good. COVID is still with us, although things are looking a lot better. I'm wondering if you,
So
Heather and Taylor, give us an update on our COVID statistics and what's going on with the regional clinics.
all right, Taylor, want to start? I guess the case is the yellow and the vaccine.
Sure. So the town is yellow, but cases definitely have seemed to be slowing down since I started, which is great. So still some cases, but definitely significantly less than before. So yeah.
And then we've been
getting a little
following
better.
the vaccination data, right? The weekly vaccination data we've been following. And I think last week, was it 67% of
So
residents?
last
at least
week,
one
as of 4/27, 67% of residents in Southborough have received at least a first dose of the vaccination.
Right, and our numbers really span from the 20-year-olds to the greater than 75-year-olds. That's at 80% between 80 and 89%.
Mhm.
So those numbers are pretty high. Our regional vaccine clinic at Westborough, for the first time, I think tomorrow, like our slots aren't full. Like those who are really seeking vaccine, have found vaccine. So the governor announced different strategy, trying to get folks vaccinated, bring the vaccine to convenient locations. I know that one suggestion from the governor was putting it into primary care offices and, reaching that way. So at our clinic, we are holding a Saturday Pfizer clinic for 16 and 17-year-olds. And tomorrow and Friday, because we are not full at all, we're accepting walk-ins at Westborough for our Moderna. The other thing is we're only doing sort of probably a week more or so of first doses, because like I said, we're not filling, but then we'll continue for a month after that to do all the second dose clinics. Next week, Pfizer may announce approval for 12 to 15-year-olds. So we have reserved Pfizer for next week, potentially in anticipation of running a second dose clinic. Next week is our first time we have second dosing, but also in the afternoon to run vaccine in the afternoon for the 12 to 15-year-olds. Also, we were thinking a little bit about eventually, right, children under 12 will be potentially late summer or fall approved for vaccine. So that would be sort of, a smaller population, but, potentially a role for local boards of health to help with vaccinating children.
Yeah, all good news. What time is the walk-in clinic on Friday?
So Friday, I believe it's open like 9 to 3 or 4. Dennis, do you know?
9 to 3:30.
9 to 3:30, so people can walk in anytime between 9 and 3:30.
Get a
And
Moderna shot.
Yep.
okay,
Yeah, get that out there.
yeah,
And we posted that on the My Southborough page. And in a little while, I'll post it to the Southborough community page on Facebook as well.
great. Great news. And also I just wanted to update Nancy. The work that Taylor and Heather have done, even though the numbers are going down, because we have two boarding schools in town and really 3 private schools, the work has really been quite challenging when you think about people that come from other countries and they have to isolate and quarantine. There's policies, the procedures. So Taylor's had to spend some time really working with all those schools to make sure that they have proper protocols and all that. So it's been really time intensive, but it's been good, and it seems to be going in the right direction. It's been a bit challenging at times, but that it's not as, even though the numbers look good, it's still been a lot of work.
Yeah. I'm sure. Thank you so much, Taylor, and happy Nurses Week.
Thank you. You too.
So
It was Nurses Week.
yes, news on the COVID front. Let's see, the next thing we have is discussion of the operational plans for DPWs.
Right.
Vegetation management plan. Do you want to, Heather? Let
Yeah,
us know.
that's just an FYI. Comment period is up till I believe May 21st, but DPW is our lead contact here for Southborough, but I was sent for our board to review the yearly operating plan for vegetation control. So the document outlines the 3 herbicides to be used, and this is to be used for nuisance for pedestrian safety and vehicle safety. And they do detail the streets that are going to be treated this year, and they detail the sensitive no spray zones, the wetlands, so there's a map that details the no spray zones for the wetlands and water supplies. So.
Okay.
So we review that for the chemical components, and are they,
The all 3 are the herbicides. It's like Roundup, Pro. Yeah, I think they're all glycophosphates. Yeah. Yep. So just to let you know.
that's great. Thanks for letting us know that. So the other was the next thing on our agenda is what we started to discuss at our last meeting, was really being able to access some of the CARES Act money. Because of all the work we had to do with COVID, it sort of complicated us doing some of our regular work. And so if there's ability to hire consultants to help us with that, utilizing CARES Act funds, we wanted to be able to do that. And so we identified 4 key areas. If you remember, one was on our IT and our HIPAA security, potential breaches and recommendations for ensuring that we don't have risks or breaches. The other was planning for digitizing our paper systems, and how do we do that, and how do we index and organize it in a way that it's searchable. And the other was a strategic plan to looking at the Board of Health, and from a strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan, and looking at what is our ability to complete laws, regulations, and bylaws currently, and what do we need to do to enhance our ability to be able to meet all of the expectations. And I know Heather has been working on those, and maybe you can give us an update, Heather.
Yeah, so Mary Lou and I did a sketch with these 4 areas, and I'm working with Carla McAuliffe, the town accountant, about next steps. And what she does first, which is what's currently happening, is she has a contact at the state who's reviewing the document in terms of sort of the viability in terms of having this covered by the CARES Act. So that's the first step. And I think I also mentioned we have $5,400 from a public health grant as well that needs to be spent by the end of June, and that also will be targeted at the communications consultant. And then Carla is also looking into whether our request for a printer can come under CARES Act funding with the increase that we've had in operations in terms of sensitive information and sending and receiving faxes with healthcare. I know Taylor was doing some this week with sending private information. So she's looking to that sort of in addition to the 4 consultant areas that you reviewed.
Great. And do you know when you'll get a response back, whether?
I don't think it takes super long, in the sense that they reviewed once the thing about the copier, and they wanted some more information, which I sent. So
Okay.
maybe next week to hear back kind of their sketch on what they thought about the CARES Act funding.
So is it possible if it comes back that we can move forward, then we would move to bid that and procure that as soon as possible?
Yes, we definitely want to act now on this and
Okay.
get that in place. And you did say you thought you had some candidates, at least for some of the areas, right?
Well, I can, as soon as we have that, I will send it out to anyone and everyone I know to get some responses back on that. And I know it's only work through, if it's CARES Act funds, it's only work through December of this year. So the sooner we get working on it, the better, for sure.
Yep. Thank you.
Nancy, do you have any questions on
No,
that?
nope,
Okay.
good.
And then the last thing on our agenda is really, I guess, the town meeting. And at this point, we're still off about 25,000 on the budget. The budget we approved was utilizing CARES Act money, so keeping the public health director position and the nurse position in the part-time, and utilizing CARES Act money. And the advisory committee agreed to basically backstop any money that isn't covered by CARES through the end of June. So it allowed us to submit a substantially less budget to town meeting. And the one place where we're not in sync at this point is whether Barbara stayed split between the assessors office and Board of Health, or is full-time in Board of Health. And we voted to keep Barbara at the Board of Health full-time.
Mhm.
There is just such a huge need for a full-time admin person, and split in any capacity would be challenging. And so we're off by that half of Barbara's salary. So I think at town meeting, that will be our differential, unless something changes in the next week or two, but I don't think that there's opportunity for that to change. So I know we had talked about putting up a presentation, and I just did get notice. I don't know if Heather, you heard anything, that in preparation of town meeting, the moderator had a meeting yesterday or the day before, and we are able to put something up. And so the presentation of literally what local Board of Health does, what they're responsible for and all of that. I know all of you have seen that. I don't know if Taylor has, but we can make sure Taylor has seen that. And that will give everybody an overview of a lot of the work that we're responsible for and what we need to do and why we need this budget to be able to be in compliance with our mandates. So I think if we're able to get that up online before town meeting, that would be great. So people could view it. I didn't know if any of you had any thoughts to that. I think the last version that everybody saw needs some modifications because the budget did change a little bit. So I'll work on getting those updates and getting that out to all of you.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Now, I am okay if I have to be split between two departments. I'm all right with that. My only concern is what happens when, like, everything settles down in life and then they cut me. I can't be without those 16 hours because I have this thing over my head, the house.
Yeah,
So,
and I hear you, Barbara, but the Board of Health needs a full-time person, whether it's you or not you. So I don't know who's gonna, if you're if you're split, then we have no control. The Board of Health has no control over those 16 hours. If you're on the budget of Board of Health, the Board of Health is gonna fight to keep a full-time position. I mean, it's critical for us. If we're gonna try to get more grant money, there's management of that. There's work that needs to be done on the hauler licenses. There's always additional licenses. There's other mandates that we're not doing. I don't see when COVID settles down, I don't see admin position being any less.
Yeah, me neither.
If anybody can speak to that, speak to that. But we're talking about digitizing all of our paperwork, the organizing, the indexing, all of that needs to get done. There's new software that's going to be required by inspectional services. That's going to require some intervention on your part. There's we're going to have additional vaccines, potentially be doing COVID vaccines going forward, a booster shot. You process all the paperwork for billing on that. So I really don't see, I don't even want to give you up 2 hours when the assessor said you could just work for them 2 hours. Like, the Board of Health needs 40 hours.
okay.
But,
I mean, I
but
don't,
thank you for
right,
being,
I see the need for full-time admin. I guess just the only concern would be in a couple years if there's different board members, what they might think.
right. I mean, yeah, always it is the board, but the need is definitely there. And my concern is you being split, you're split in, and not just time, not just physical space, but your brain is split to, get all those other things done. And if anybody thinks otherwise, please speak up because I don't.
Now, we have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Let me see, Sam Stivers.
Bring Sam over.
Here he is.
Hey, am I unmuted?
Yep.
You are
Yes.
unmuted, Sam.
Thanks, guys. Quick clarification, Mary Lou, on the town meeting thing. I did hear the moderators meeting last night, and you're correct. Any group does have an opportunity to put together a presentation, but that's only for posting on the town website. The moderator is going to put together a bunch of presentations on the town website. There will be no capability to do a presentation at the town meeting other than a brief verbal pitch for what you want to do. And my expectation is if the budget continues to go in the same direction, you folks will present the budget and then advisory or somebody may stand up and amend your budget for $25,000 less or whatever, and then there will be a vote on the amendment and then a vote on the budget. So you'll have an opportunity at that point to make your case as well. The other opportunity is that there are going to be the usual tables with materials outside the entry point for town meetings. So if you want to put together a, 5-page paper summary for people to pick up on their way in, you could do that as well if you choose to do that. So you have two ways to communicate what you want there. And I would urge you to coordinate with the town clerk and the moderator about those arrangements. If you want to do that, just let them know that it's coming. So those are the ways that people are going to do to get the message out, and then be prepared when an amendment comes, if an amendment comes on the town meeting floor for your budget line item, which they will go through the budget and people will hold line items that they want to talk about. I expect yours will be one of the ones that's held, and then they'll go back and debate the ones that are held. So that's sort of the way it will play out. So just so you know, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
That's thankful. Thank you, Sam. That's helpful. And one other thought, and maybe this is something we should maybe think about, is we could hold a Board of Health meeting maybe in a week. And the whole Board of Health meeting is the presentation about local Board of Health. It gets recorded, it's on YouTube, and then we could share that link with anybody.
That's a way to do it as well. Exactly.
So, so I could send out the presentation as it is right now. You guys could add, update the things that need to get updated, and then we'll hold a meeting and present that at our Board of Health meeting.
And as part of the presentation that you post on the town website, you could have a link to that meeting and a big note that says, for anyone interested in more information, look at this YouTube meeting. And I think it's a good thing for folks to be able to see you guys and talking about it, et cetera. It personalizes that in a way that if it's just a line item on the budget, most of the people at town meeting have no idea who you are, what you do, et cetera. So that would be a good way to get, I think, a more personal message out there as well. So that's a good idea. Thank you.
When is the posting due for the town website?
He didn't say a specific date, just as soon as people can get it in. But again, if you connect with the town moderator and the town clerk, they can tell you about any deadlines for that. They're managing that process. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, Sam. What are your thoughts on doing that, having a board meeting, and everybody could speak to that?
I think that's a good idea. Again, if keep it relatively succinct. People probably aren't going to spend an hour watching something like that, but if it's 20 minutes or something like that, an overview, I think it's worth a try. No telling how many people will be interested, but if you actually post your presentation slides or whatever on the town website, as others are doing, and then page 1 of that could be, here's a link for a Board of Health meeting that provides more information, and you can hear the Board of Health members talking about their needs for this budget, et cetera, et cetera. I think that would be a good way to advertise a little bit. And then the other thing you can do is to connect. Do you know Beth Mello at My Southborough?
Yeah.
The blog?
Yeah, a little bit.
So again, either writing a letter to Beth or getting her to post information about the issues for the Board of Health is a good way to get the word out as well. And she may view this story as worthy of a piece for her to write, or she may invite you to write a letter to the community. Anybody can post a letter on that they want to, and again, convey the message that way. And then that letter or story could point to the town website link or the YouTube link for your meeting or whatever. So you could connect the pieces that way as well, which would be a good way to communicate, I think.
I still think something in writing at town meeting too, because people do peruse those papers while they're.
People get bored looking for reading material, I think. So.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Hey, Mr. Litt has a question too.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Greetings.
Greetings.
So let me start with what Sam said, and then I'll add a couple of things. I was at that meeting as well. One thing he didn't mention is that you're probably used to hearing reports of boards and committees as Article 1 at town meeting. And the moderator, Paul Siminos, said he wasn't sure that that was going to fly. He was thinking of recommending that we simply skip that in the interest of time and efficiency. So if you were thinking of doing anything as part of that article, I think the thing to do is to plan to put it on the web, and just assume that isn't going to happen.
That's interesting, Tim, because I've already spoken to the moderator. And I have specifically requested that we have 10 to 15 minutes at that first warrant. And so
So
that's,
he said that he had gotten one request. I assumed it was yours. But he was still thinking that, he was going to recommend to town meeting. He didn't commit to recommending to town meeting, but he said it was likely he would recommend to town meeting that we just sort of get on with things because, we're outdoors and we've got a lot of articles and, what are all these reports for anyway?
okay.
So I would certainly prepare one, but right now I wouldn't assume that you're going to get to give it if that
Okay.
happens. I sent you a summary of this and the Board of Selectmen thing last night. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. It was also announced as that either advisory or the Board of Selectmen will move to amend your budget, obviously lower. We should think about the strategy there. The other thing was following that meeting, there was a Board of Selectmen meeting. And once again, Mark Purple, gave a report on the status of the vaccine clinic and what was going on and all that. And it really occurred to me that it would have been a whole lot better if one of you or Dr. Alker had been at that meeting, because right now you're again in the shadows. You're being represented by the town administrator as though you somehow kind of worked for him or that. And I think it's important, both for the short-term issue and for the long-term, for you to be more visible. So where we've got this big thing going on and the selectmen are hearing about, the success of the clinic and who was behind it, they're hearing it from Mark, and Mark was suggesting that the Board of Selectmen write a letter to thank the person in Northborough who was really behind all this. And I think that was appropriate, but it would have been better if you'd been there and kind of face that, showed that you were a part of this and you put a lot of effort into it and all that.
And
So
Tim, I appreciate you saying that. And Sam, if you're still on, I'm frustrated because I voiced in more than one occasion to the selectmen that when there is any question on Board of Health, we would like to present ourselves instead of going through a third party. And it apparently didn't happen again. And to that point, I don't know how to resolve that. Sam, if you have any thoughts on how to resolve that, are we just supposed to review Board of Selectmen and then show up? Or like, if there's questions about the vaccine clinic, about COVID, or anything that's Board of Health related, we would like to be able to present our own view of what that is.
Yeah, good point. Am I still unmuted?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
we can hear you.
Yeah. Mary Lou, I apologize. I should have had a little more foresight on that one because that was on the agenda under the town administrator's report. It was the COVID update, basically. And that's something that is usually on those agendas. So I will push to have you invited to participate in that. But also, as Tim suggests, you can keep an eye on the agendas. And if there's something COVID related that I don't follow up on, that's a way to do it. And Mark is usually doing a report on COVID in these meetings, given that a lot of events are happening pretty quickly here. So that would be a good place to step in and again, provide direct input. So I will try to keep a closer eye.
That would be great, but maybe Sam, you could relay that, now that we have a public health director, that it would be beneficial going forward from this point forward, that any updates COVID related come from the health director.
I will do that. And we're going to have a new chair a week from today, I guess, roughly, or not after that. After the election, there'll be a new selectman, and we're going to reorganize at that point. And so it'll be an opportunity maybe for me to have a little more influence on agendas and so forth. So I will work on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take the question of COVID reports in sort of two pieces. There's one piece that I think it's appropriate for Mark to report on, and that's what the administration is doing, within town hall and within the departments, to react. But in terms of the plan and the results and the interactions with the state and the other towns and stuff, where you're the lead, you ought to be the one who's giving the report.
Yeah,
You
but
shouldn't
even,
be pulling up 3 pages of statistics talking about,
right,
the demographics of who's gotten what kind of vaccine and when. And that's in fact what happened.
right. But, and even to your point, we should even be, we're partners with, so the reopening of, and what's going on with town employees, what's going on with this is still under our purview. And so, I mean, it's, to me, even reporting on that should be a joint presentation or us presenting.
Yep.
Yep.
So anything COVID related should be coming from the health department and not from a non-clinical, non-public health
Yep.
person that's just reading data.
Well, that I support you in that. I also think that in those places, where Mark is implementing things that you've directed or you've, helped him to figure out, politically, it's important to give him, the ability to report on that piece. Right now, he's stepping on you and you don't want to turn around and step on him.
Oh, agreed, agreed.
That's just sort of where I am on that.
Yeah, no, agreed. But I think we should be partners in it. That's my whole point. The health department should be partnering with Mark and with the Board of Selectmen, as opposed to silos like things have been operating for so long.
And I think that's a conversation you need to have with him. It's not, I'm not representing either side in this.
No,
I'm
I
just
agree.
reporting, what I saw.
And I
As far
agree,
as
Leila. I'll work to be more aggressive in terms of pushing for that. So I apologize that I haven't been doing that. And I have to sign off now, folks. I appreciate the opportunity to chat, but I hope
All
to
right.
speak with you later.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then as far as the town clerk goes, what was said in passing was that something to the effect of he'd be ready to accept stuff, or there would be a tab showing up on the town website sort of towards the end of this week. So that's sort of the soonest that something might be there.
Okay.
There was, as Sam said, there was no deadline on the end, but I think as soon as you have something coherent, the sooner the better in terms of getting it out in front of people. And you can run it by me if you like or not. I'm getting tired of, volunteering.
No, we appreciate it, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
And I think we've got through our entire agenda. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, or anything to add before we
No.
adjourn?
So are you looking at having a meeting next week sometime, do you think?
So that's, I think the sooner the better. So what's today? Today is Wednesday. Nancy, do you know your schedule?
Right, can I just look at it? Hold on.
Everybody's in agreement to do that, right? Okay. And it'll just be really, I think no more than a 20-minute, as Tim said, that, people aren't going to want to listen for a long time, but.
I can do Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay. Does Wednesday work for everybody else?
What's a good time, Nancy? Anytime?
Yes, yep, anytime. Maybe.
Do you want to try to do the morning, Wednesday morning?
Yeah, that's fine.
Wednesday morning?
I mean, I personally can't do 10 to noon.
Okay. What's a good time for you, Heather?
So, right, I mean, I can do 9, I can do.
You want to do 9? Would 9 work for everyone?
Sure.
10 a.m.?
Sure.
Because like I said, it's not going to be more than a half hour. But maybe Barbara, you can work on the recording thing to make sure we can get a full YouTube recording.
Yeah, I gotta fix that. The YouTube, we are recorded to the cloud.
Right.
And there's something with me muting, not muting something, but I get in touch with Tim Davis or Jay, our new IT person, and I tell them right away, get it up. It's not live on YouTube.
Okay.
So
So it is
maybe,
recorded.
yeah, and maybe you and I can touch base, so I make sure I can share the screen okay, and it can get up, and so we want to get to make sure that meeting gets recorded and recorded well so that people can view it again. So, so we're agreeing 9 o'clock, Wednesday, what's the date? Wednesday.
The 12th.
Yeah.
Wednesday, the 12th, and our plan is, the agenda will be a town meeting presentation.
Okay.
Is that
The echo is when someone has both YouTube and Zoom on,
Oh,
because what happens is the sound goes from Zoom into YouTube, and then their microphone picks it up from YouTube, and you hear it coming around later.
Yeah.
So
boy,
what's the best thing to do, Tim? Just record on YouTube?
No, the best thing to do is to tell people not to have YouTube open when they're talking and to mute them when they're not talking.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, you got that, Barbara?
Yeah. It's hard when you hear other meetings and stuff, and it's like, what?
I know, and it just kept back playing, so it was like background.
Except for me, because I just keep sticking my nose in.
Oh, no. So thank you, everybody. The meeting is adjourned, and I have to do some updates, and I will get it out to everybody soon, and we can work on it and present it next Wednesday.
sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Done.
Nope. How do I get out of here? Oh, where is it?
Yes.